Okay, so YouTube number 3, probably, if you already looked at Comedy of Manners for Lily Daw and the Three Ladies. I'm going to quickly go through kind of a summary of this short story, plus talk about the elements of story, which I think are like 9 things. I'm going to send you a picture of a poster that I made in class, and you should have definitions attached to each of those elements. This is different from element of plot, which I did with a worn path. An element of plot is just like the narrative arc, like straight up what happened. Elements of story gets more in the deep dive into tone and theme and all of that stuff. So I will send you a picture of that and go through it. But let me just recap what Lily Daw was about. This is one of Welty's more famous. I try to do the more famous short stories, so if it ever got brought up later in college, you'd at least have a category for some of these Southern Gothic or Southern writing. Lily Daw and the Three Ladies. It's a bit of a comedy, right? Like a really dark, weird comedy, but it's the comic efforts of a group of ladies to save the virtue of Lily Daw, who's mentally disabled in some way. And she is being kind of courted by a xylophone player that she met one night. Like, one night. He was in a traveling show or something, and he's visited their little town of Victory, Mississippi. Now, what we're to understand is that these three ladies have protected Lily Daw her whole life from her, like, really abusive father. We get this sudden revelation that Lily Daw was attacked by her father with a butcher knife. So you have this nice little story, and then this is not all light, you know. And so they have sort of taken her on as their ward, and they provided her with housing, but they also rule her, and that is going to be something that, you know, you want to, you know, question. You know, most characters are complex, not good guys and bad guys, and most good stories will have complex characters. Well, maybe not good stories, but I would say that normally people are complex characters with good and bad intentions. But they are a force to be reckoned with, and she doesn't have a lot of choices. And one of the things that they're intent about doing is getting her to the Ellisville Institute for the Feeble-Minded, and now they have to go convince her. That's kind of the story. Lily has no freedom, and although she is, like I said, protected by these women, and she and this xylophone player, who may or may not have seduced her the night before, right? We're never told what happened there, but we are left wondering, you know, did he take advantage of her, or did she just, you know, have a you know, kind of a casual experience with him, an innocent experience. But they are both of them are soon to be quick victims of Southern social proprieties of etiquette and a shotgun wedding. So what I want to do is, if you would have you know, nearby the picture that I sent of the elements of story, we're going to talk about, I gotta look at it, setting, which is the when and where of a story, and the social circumstances. 2, characterization, the process by which a writer reveals the personality of the characters. These are test questions, clearly. Who are the characters? How are they described? How does the author reveal them? And this gets done in different ways. There's almost only dialogue in this story, and so the way that you get to know the characters is through what they say. in A Good Man Is Hard to Find, which we'll talk about tomorrow, it's never said the grandmother is an overbearing, self-centered, and hard woman to live with. O'Connor doesn't directly describe the character. She indirectly describes her by letting her actions give you her personality. And in this way too, we're not told in the story these women rule Lily's life with mixed motives. We infer that from their dialogue. That's number 3. Plot and structure. That is the 4th element of story. This is just the sequence of events. And there's usually, in short stories particularly, there's one event, going on. It's because short stories pack a quick punch. Then that was 1, 2, 3, 4. And then number 4, narrator and point of view. Who is telling the story? Through whose eyes are you being told the story? Can they be trusted? And we're going to talk about that. Number 5, conflict. What is the tension at the heart of the story? Number 6, climax. We talked about that yesterday. This is the turning point, or where the major question is answered. Number 7, theme. This is the author's, which would be Welty's attitude, not the character's attitude, but Welty's attitude toward a certain idea that's presented in her story. And there are several themes for this one. And then finally, tone. And this is sometimes synonymous with mood. I'll send you, I'll give you some examples of tone as well. Anyway, you should have those 8 elements of story. So I'm going to use that to teach Lily Daw. And we'll try to do this in 20 minutes like yesterday's. So just a quick little thing on short stories. I want to give you a definition of a short story today. So write this down, or write it down later. Just watch it now. Write down what you want to later. Make up a study guide for yourself. A short story is a work of short narrative prose centered around a single event, unlike Frankenstein, where you just had 1,000 things going on. Short stories pack a quick punch, and they have to tell things fast, and they have to get to the point fast. So they're kind of fun to read, and especially Southern short stories are really fun for me to read. Okay, let's do setting in Lily Daw, because that's the first element of story. Let's ask a couple questions. We want to know where, when, what, and how is the setting created, and does the setting play a role in the story? And okay, so, and the who. So you're given a lot of setting right away. In A Worn Path, it's you're given setting, but you're not given a lot of information. You're given everything in the first paragraph or 2. You have Mrs. Watts, Mrs. Carson, Amy Slocum. Those are the 3 ladies that kind of dominate or take care of Lily's life. And then you have Lily Daw. And as I said in the other video, Lily Daw is is a classic character in Southern Gothic writing, as she is slightly off center. She has a disability. It's not a physical disability like in To Kill a Mockingbird with Boo Radley. It's a mental disability. But she will be kind of the most honest character, the way that Boo Radley was. So those are our characters. Setting is Victory, Mississippi, which is a made-up town that Welty liked to put a lot of stories in. And then the setting, how's the setting created? It doesn't say it's a small kind of town centered around talk and where everyone knows everyone. You just get that right away. Like there's gossip about Ellisville. I hear it's a lovely place, but they're too crowded, and Lily, she just lets people walk over her. So, there are these quick little assessments of everything. They make some comment about a tent show, and then they're like, I shouldn't have mentioned a tent show in front of the pastor's wife, because supposedly that's a scandalous thing. I don't know. So setting is created kind of through that quick, gossipy, and it's not even malicious gossip, it's just talk, that's just that. Everybody, there's power in knowing things, and if you're ever like in a group, knowing something first, or knowing something that no one else knows, is like low-level power. And in small towns, that's at play all the time. What can I tell you that no one's told you yet, or what do I know that no one else knows? That's at play a lot. It can be a sinister little thing, even if it's not like malicious gossip. There's a subtle social hierarchy. The Baptist preacher's wife is going to play a prominent role in a community like a small southern town. And then there's this group that doesn't care for Lily Daw, that they feel a little left out, that they're not part of this big news today that she got accepted into the institution. And then the quick dialogue, like if you look back over, I don't know if y'all lost your copy. I had to like reprint it, but it's just quick dialogue the whole time. There's hardly a breath in between one character saying something and the next character saying something. And that's very characteristic of Southern speech as well. I've never quite gotten the hang of it, even though I'm from Atlanta, but I love listening to Southern people talk, because there's like no break in the cadence often. There are no silences. It's just bam, bam. And listening. I mean, that's a caricature, and obviously not all Southerners are like that, but sometimes if you listen to kind of small talk conversations like before, after church or something, you'll hear that quick Southern cadence that is it's just very characteristic of the South. I've just never been able to do it. I have too many awkward pauses, and I don't ever know what I'm going to say next, which y'all couldn't tell. Anyway, the very fact that she says right away that it's Victory, Mississippi, that it's in Mississippi, gives you the Bible Belt ethos. You're meant to understand that there's a certain acceptance of social etiquette, unspoken rules that are in place, which every culture has, right? Every culture has that. If you were anywhere in the world, and the South has it too. So, and Lily always breaks these characters, these rules. And then how does the setting affect the language and the social circumstances? Setting is huge in this story, and in any Southern Gothic or Southern writing. I've already talked about Southern dialogue that kind of leaves no pauses, no room for discomfort. Nobody like, if I'm caricaturing it, no one should ever feel uncomfortable in Southern small talk. You want to kind of use humor and the comedy of manners to get to the next sentence as fast as possible. I mean, and that's not in every conversation. Obviously, I'm not making a blanket statement about the way Southerners talk. But Welty wants to exaggerate that in this story, because she does caricature Southern culture in that way, and these Southern women in particular. And then the social circumstances, this expectation that Lily needs sheltered once she reaches this sexual maturity, that they can't control her anymore. Okay, so that's setting. Let's do characterization. Definition. Characterization, ready, is the process by which a writer reveals the personality of a character. The writer can reveal it directly. The grandmother was annoying. Or, which is not what she said, she can do it indirectly by just having dialogue, and you go, man, that's annoying, and you make your own inferences. So a character can be revealed through speech, internal thoughts, actions, the effect that they have on others. That was big time in A Good Man Is Hard to Find. Everyone's annoyed by the grandmother. The children, they're brats, but they're annoyed by her, and kind of rightfully so. And their speech, maybe even the way that they dress. These are all indirect ways of showing characterization. You also have two types of characters. Dynamic characters are characters that change. Sometimes you call them round characters. They will have some kind of transformation by the end of the story. Like the grandmother in A Good Man Is Hard to Find. She's a dynamic character. Scout in... I cannot take up time with this. In To Kill a Mockingbird, Scout is a dynamic character. She changes over the story. Anakin Skywalker is a character that is a dynamic character. And then you have characters that don't change. They're static, they're flat, and they provide that. I'm not going to change. And the three ladies, except maybe Amy Slocum, are static, flat characters. They don't change. That's characterization, I think. Let's talk about some questions. Who is the main character? Lily Daw. How are the characters described? The ladies are in agreement, or they are easily subdued by somebody kind of saying, no, we're not doing that. And you have a leader. It's Mrs. Watts, although the pastor's wife exerts some influence too. Lily is revealed, her character is revealed because she just says what she thinks. Like, what did she say about you have something on your face? Like, she just has no filter. You've got bumps on your face, I think is what she says. And then, what kind of characters are these women? They're proper, they're well respected in the community, they are forces to be reckoned with. Like, you do not go up against them. They're moral and religious. And then Lily is, like that she's the typical Southern Gothic character that kind of defies convention. And I had some questions on here if we were together. What do you like about them? What do you dislike? Because most characters, as I said, are complex. I like certain things about these ladies, and I dislike certain things. You want to ask the questions, do they change? Do they stay the same? And we talked about that. Okay, number 3, plot and structure. Plot is just the sequence of events. In short stories, there's usually one experience, one plot line, and one significant moment. What is the important event in this one? Will Lily go to Ellisville or not? And that's plot and structure. Let's move on. Number 4, narrator and point of view. Okay, this will take a second, so hang in there. Narrator and point of view. Who is telling the story is important because you are being led by the author to believe something. And you want to decide, are you being led by a character in the story who has limited knowledge and is like Scout has to tell things through a 5-year-old's mind. So here are some different types of points of view in literature. The first person point of view, where the narrator is actually a character in the story, and you see that immediately when they use I throughout. And so the narrator's strengths and weaknesses and youth and age and limitations, all of that will play into how they tell the story. So that's first person. There's really no such thing as second person. Third person, there are 3 types. This is a third person is when the narrator is not a character. There's third person omniscient, in which the narrator is all-knowing. They know the thoughts of everyone, not just one person. So they're going to speak for everyone. This would be like the Scarlet Letter, which we haven't read yet. But Nathaniel Hawthorne reveals the thoughts of Hester Prynne and the minister and everyone. He tells everyone. So that is third person omniscient. Third person limited. Some of these speak for themselves, right? That means that you're not going to be able to hear the thoughts of everyone in the story. good example is Harry Potter. You are given the internal thoughts of Harry Potter, but you're not given the internal thoughts of, say, his Muggle family. Like, you just get to know them through what they do, but you don't get to hear the conflict in their minds. One character kind of gets to tell the story, but still the narrator is not a character. So let's review. First person point of view, the narrator is a character in the story. Third person, you have first person omniscient, the author tells everybody's thoughts. Third person limited, basically one person's thoughts, like Harry Potter. And then you have third person objective, in which you almost get the thoughts of no one. Like Hemingway loved to write like this. Like when we did The Old Man and the Sea, you got all of this stuff happening at sea, but really he never talks about how the character feels or what's going on in his, you know, he didn't like to write like that. So this is actually probably more omniscient narration, because while they don't tell a lot of the internal thoughts, you get everybody equally is revealed. Okay, so that's point of view. I think that's all I have there. Conflict, this is quick. This is the tension at the heart of the story, or where the question is answered. Will Lily go to Ellisville or not? And the conflict, is it caused by internal stuff or external stuff? It's, I would say external, because of the massive will of the three ladies and their cultural ethos, and then Lily's kind of irrational desires and hopes, or what they would see as irrational. And that causes the conflict. Like, she wants to get married. That is not in their plans at all. Number 6, the climax. The climax is where the story is a turning point of the story, or where the events take a major turn, or where the question is answered. Is she going to go to Ellisville? Well, no, because the xylophone player shows up. So that's the climax. And it takes place really right at the end, where a lot of short story climaxes take place. Theme. Theme is the author's attitude toward some subject in his or her story. Some of the ideas we might bring out of Lily Daw are like motives, and then talk about Welty's attitude toward motive, intention, help. Like, does help hurt, or does help here? Value, does, like, where is value placed in each of these characters, and on what is value placed? So when you like, value, a lot of value placed on what Lily looks like they want to give her a brassiere as a gift, like a bra. I'll get you a bra if you'll just go to, because decorum and the way that you dress and the way that you present yourself equals what kind of person you are, a lot of times in the South and everywhere. But I would say, if I were to pick a theme for the story, and you can just use this one since we're not getting to discuss this, is that intentions to help are often misguided. They are not thinking so much about what Lily wants. The heart of the conflict here is that Lily has come to sexual maturity, and up to now they've been able to control her. And they also, there's this little cryptic little reference that they have made it clear to the boys of Victory that they are not to involve themselves with her, that she could be easily taken advantage of. But the fear of her sexual maturity is pressing this whole story forward. So if we didn't get to talk about that in class, I need to bring it out now, that they're very much afraid of that. And it's not even a subject they talk about out loud. Like, when she reveals that she had an interaction with a man the night before, they don't even want to know, what happened? Like, you'd think that would be the question, right? Like, what happened? Tell me what happened. Were you hurt? Are you hurt? you know, were you violated? Did you do this? Did you do something with consent? Did nothing happen? Did you just go for a drive? Like, they don't ask any of those questions. They just say, they don't, because it's like, you just can't talk about that at that time and in that setting. So the question is, don't ask her any of that. Just, are you the same as you were before? Yes or no, you know? And so that fear plays into why they're getting her into Ellisville. I'm not sure it's for her own good, although it could be. Like, remember, people are mixed. So they're doing it for her own good and possibly doing it to spare the town a scandal, possibly doing it to protect Lily, possibly doing it to protect the, you know, the men in Victory. But decorum and how things look definitely plays into this, and it's not pretty. Like, they should have asked, are you okay? What happened? And you can see this dark side of this little comedy when the xylophone player shows up. They just have a shotgun wedding real fast in the courthouse, and they don't know anything about him. Like, they don't know if he abused her. They don't know if he will abuse her. They don't know if he'll leave her in the next town. I mean, he shows up, oddly, which is weird. But then he's sort of caught up in their force of will as well. But they're very interesting women, and you're not really sure what to think about them, except something's not right here. So I would say that is theme. Intentions to help are often misguided by our own personal set of values. And then finally, number 8, tone. And this is maybe like the mood of the story. And I would say the tone, there are several tones. So write what you want down or listen to this later and skip around. It's satirical, like a satire, meaning kind of showing the ulterior motives of a group of well-meaning people. Like, they're poking fun. She's poking fun. That's what satire is. It's taking what people just accept as normal and then going, okay, that's kind of dumb. You know, that's satire. So it has a satirical tone. It has a caricaturing tone. She takes a group of ladies and tries to make them represent women in the South by exaggerating certain qualities of Southern dialect, Southern dialogue, Southern etiquette. And of course, these aren't true of every Southern woman, but sometimes to make a story interesting, you take certain characteristics like to the nth degree, like to a grotesque level. And it is an amusing story, clearly. And it's also ironic where, it's also an ironic story in which, showing that something is happening in the opposite way than you expected, and it's a cause of amusement. So these women who are like, we've got to take care of Lily Daw, we just can't let her get hurt, throw her into the arms of a very shady character. Or they don't even know if he's shady. They don't even investigate. Like, getting her married or getting her to Ellisville. Those are like their only options in their minds. Okay, so to sum up, as I get this under 30 minutes, which would be a normal lecture, by the way, if we were in class or discussing it, is a little sum up of Lily Daw. You got the comedy of manners. If you watched that earlier, you can watch it in a minute. And then I wanted to talk about elements of story, and there are 8, and use this story and imprint it on those elements, just the way we did yesterday with a narrative arc, and we pressed a worn path onto a narrative arc. And you could do this with any story. So I'll try to make a study guide for this stuff, but if you don't listen to the YouTubes, you probably can't take the test, or the study guide will be useless to you. But tomorrow I'll do A Good Man is Hard. Actually, I won't probably do it. I'm gonna put a YouTube out tomorrow for A Good Man is Hard to Find, that a lecture that I love. It is long, But you have until Monday to take this test, and so you can listen to it 20 minutes at a time if you want to. I don't care. But it's excellent, and A Good Man is Hard to Find is a really complex piece that has a lot of cool things in it. And Flannery O'Connor herself is really interesting, and this guy gets into that too. So I want you to take advantage of me giving you like a really cool, probably college level lecture on A Good Man is Hard to Find, and just enjoy it. I want it to kind of mess with you and certain things to blow your mind. You know, this story, A Good Man is Hard to Find, written by a Christian, a Catholic Christian woman who has everyone murdered in her story. Like, I want you to lean into that a little bit. So I am going to give you a pretty hefty YouTube on it, but I just couldn't find one that I liked as well as this one. So take a few minutes every day and listen to it. You have until Monday, and then Monday or Tuesday, and then I'll put a test in front of you on all 3 of these stories. Okay, have a good night. Y'all are doing great.